Good. Hey guys, how you doing?
Okay. Hello, hello. We're so excited to have you here for our second day of our Assets into Income Challenge. Today, we're going to talk about the things that are holding you back from achieving your income goal. Yesterday, we challenged everyone to think about what your income goal for the year is. And if you're brave enough to type it in Facebook in the group, we had a few people who did it. So congrats. That's the first step.
Awesome. hmm
Um, and randomly, it's not necessarily tied to income goals, but it's tied to building my ideal day. At one point, I decided to sit down, just write what my ideal day was. And a year later, I randomly found my notes and I was shocked because everything I wrote on that paper actually happened. There's something about us
hmm
coming up with a goal. I don't know what it is. I'm sure there's all kinds of studies that explain it much better than I can. But when we come up with an income goal, with any type of goal, we seem to work towards it. And that's the first step. So we want to congratulate those of you who are brave enough to post that income goal. All of them were over $100,000 per year, right? And that's awesome because our discussion is about building a six-figure income stream.
hmm
We're focusing on that. Some people, might want to get to seven figures, but it's usually you have to go from 0 to 1, like $1 or $100 to 1,000 to 10,000 to 100,000. So there is there are stepping stones. However, it's amazing to come up with an income goal because that is going to direct every decision you're making. We use the earnings decoder calculator, right? We are saying come up with your income goal divided by the number of hours you're going to work. If it's part-time, 1,000 hours. If it's full-time, 2,000 hours. And that will give you your hourly rate. And when you know your hourly rate, let's say it's 125,000, that's what we used yesterday. My hourly rate would have to be $125 an hour. And that's going to push me to look for things I can do to make $125 an hour and push me away from the things that are 15 to 20 to $30 an hour. So that's why it's so important to have this income goal in front of you. Now, before we move forward, before we talk about what's holding you back, I want to ask a question and then give you maybe 30 seconds to think about it. But this question is going to reveal something extremely important about you. And this is the question. What do you think you need to do to make that type of money, to make the income goal you came up with? If you did not come up with an income goal, then the question will change. And that is, what do you think you need to do to make more money? Think about it. And if you're live, post your answer in as a comment. Whatever you are, on YouTube, on Facebook, just post your answer. What do you think you need to do to make more money or to reach your income goal?
Yeah, I think I put this in the comments on Facebook, but I really think that there's power in writing something down, giving a name to something. I know that there's when we're looking at what we're grateful for, writing that down, that has a bigger impact than just thinking about them. The thing, and so I think that that's the same here as well. When we're whatever our goals are, and we're talking about income goals, writing them down, it's it. I love that it takes courage to do that, and the reason it does is because there's power behind that. And do you want to give power to the number you're going to put down? And if you're looking at $10,000 a year, which maybe that's all you need to make or want to make or whatever, but maybe that's easier. What's what I want to say? I don't want to say a cop out, but that's kind of what I'm thinking. I don't have a better word of just, not high enough. The goal that isn't really, you're scared. Let that fear go so that you can shoot for something bigger. And don't be afraid to name it. Naming it, like Delia was saying, really does keep it in your mind differently. And you will even subconsciously start working towards that. But I love that power. There's power in writing things down and in actually naming the goal. Just helps you move forward towards that.
Yeah, totally. If I just start driving and I have no goal, I probably
Mhm.
won't make it anywhere. I'll just take a left or right, the left or right. Like if there's no direction, it's very difficult to get the things we want or to arrive at the
Mhm.
destination we want. We have to have a destination in mind. So now let's go back to this question. What do you think you need to do to make more money? In doing this challenge, we want to give some practical things. We're doing some practical assessment, or we use the earnings decoder tool, which is just a very simple tool. Take your income goal divided by the number of hours you want to work. We're doing these things to help you change your mindset about business and ideally help you grow a little bit, because
Mhm.
business is a reflection of us. Our businesses are a reflection of us. I mentioned this yesterday. Businesses don't get stuck. Business owners get stuck. So we want to give you practical things, what you can do, but often our success is tied to who we are. And Jenny posted a meme in like an illustration in the group, in the Facebook group, with different people being under a cloud, but one is happy and one is depressed and one is, I don't know, I don't
Losing their
remember.
mind.
But and mindset matters, right? We are our most important asset. That's why we're taking a little bit of time to deal with mindset questions and not just the practical what to do. When I started in business, I was so annoyed with the people who were teaching and focusing on mindset stuff, because I thought I just need the practical stuff. I just need to
Mm.
know what to do. Tell me what to do. I'm going to make enough money. I don't need your stuff about mindset.
Mhm.
However, I realized after 2, 3 years that my failure in business was tied to mindset issues and false beliefs I had. So that's why we're combining these two. So now let's go back to the question. Why did I ask the question, what do you think you need to do to make more money? Because if your answer was, I need to work more, then you do not have a business owner mindset. You have an employee mindset. Usually, employees think that they need to work more hours or they need to get a better job to get paid a bit more per hour. And that's the employee. A
Mhm.
CEO, a business owner starts to think differently. They want to leverage the things they
Mhm.
have, the assets they have, um, the knowledge they have, the relationships they have. And that is pretty revealing, because I know there were times where I was looking at my financial statements and I was trying to come up with a way to make an extra 5,000 or $10,000, and I was trying to come up with ways to make money. And I caught myself thinking, "Oh, I just need to work more." And I realized, no, 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 that's not how a good business
Mhm.
owner thinks about making money. So then I started to look at the assets. What kind of people do I know that I could connect, and then all of us make something out of that relationship, right? That's not forcing me to work more. So every time I'm looking at how I can make more money, I'm not looking at working more hours nowadays. I mean, at least most days, we all fall in the trap of thinking the way we used to think before. But right now, I catch myself more often, and I don't do it as often. I do it very rarely. However, it's very easy to fall into that trap, right? Because if we come from that background where we were taught just get a good job, and if you get a good job, you'll do well. You save some money, and then maybe you invest some of that money, and then you'll do fine. That was the story I was fed. Even now, my dad still thinks that I should get a job, and I'll be so much safer, so much secure if I get a job. He has no clue what I'm doing, um, but because that's his background, right? He
Yeah.
knew that if you work for a big company, you're safe, secure. That was the story he was told, and maybe in his time it was true. So I still fall into that trap of thinking I have to work more. I want to change your mindset, or at least make you stop yourself when you're thinking about that, and make sure you start thinking differently. No,
Mhm.
you do not need to work more. There are seasons when we do need to work more, but usually we need to leverage what we have. in a better way. If I do one-on-one coaching, let's take that example, because I have done some coaching in the past. Usually people come to me and ask me to coach them. It doesn't happen very often. This is not something I want to do. But if I were to do one-on-one coaching versus group coaching, which one leverages my time better? The
Yeah.
group coaching, right? That's one way that I can, that's one change, right? I might think, oh, no, people are not going to pay me a lot of money for group coaching, which is not true. And I might force myself to do one-on-one coaching, and that limits the amount of time, the amount of money I can make, because there's only a small amount of time I can put toward one-on-one coaching. So that's a small mind shift, right? And I've made that shift, and I actually like group coaching better than one-on-one. So I tend to like the group coaching anyway. But that's one way to leverage something I have. If people come to me and ask me for one-on-one coaching, I usually don't say yes to it, because I don't want to be stuck coaching one person. And then the problem is, right, I have to get a few people in a group.
Right.
So that's a different problem. But again, there's a way to do it without me working more. So that's the purpose behind the question. And I know I'm rambling again, but I'll let Jenny
fine.
take the next question that we want to bring to you, just to help you grow as a business owner.
I wanted to just share an example. I was looking at a website. I always forget the name of it, but it's for businesses that are for sale. The name doesn't even matter, but just browsing through local business had come up for sale, and it got me thinking differently. We've gotten a little bit involved in real estate investing. I'm just thinking differently, kind of like what Delia had brought up yesterday, where she found out it was possible to buy businesses with little or no money of her own, just creative financing. So anyhow, I'm just looking at these businesses, and I was talking to my husband. I said, hey, look at this one. And he's like, I don't want to do that. and then I'm like, oh, no, we don't have to do it. We would buy, like, there's employees that would do that work. There's managers that we would hire to do that. We don't have to do it ourselves, And one of them was like this window washing. I'm not going to do that. I'm scared of heights. I'm like, we're not like, think differently. So it was just this beautiful example of this employee versus owner mindset. And I think anyone our age and older, I don't know about the younger as much. I mean, I know my kids are probably thinking this way too, just because of the way our family is. But it is, we do tend to have that be our story. And I appreciate actually the way that you worded that, Delia. The question I also have is, how do you act when you don't know what you're doing? Okay, this question came up last week, and it just got me thinking about how do you act when you don't know what you're doing? What does that look like for an owner versus an employee? And I'm curious, I don't know what the delay is, but I'm kind of curious what your guys' thoughts would be on that. When we are an employee and we don't know what we're doing, I think that we probably we ask questions like, what am I supposed to do? Or we don't do anything. We feel maybe a little bit paralyzed. I'm not equipped for this. This wasn't in my job description, and so we pull back. But an owner mentality, as someone who's a business owner, how do you act when you don't know what you're doing? Do you tend to go to fear? Do you tend to go to, any of that shutting down or pulling back? Or do you tend to have this thought of, you know what, it's a problem that I can find a solution to. I have connections. There's people, I can ask people, those relationships that I've made, the people I know might know somebody else. So the question is, how do you look at a problem? Do you look at it as something you can solve, or do you look at it as a barrier? And there's a CVI, it's called the CVI Core Value Index. And it's like this, kind of like a personality test, but not really personality. It's more about your values. And I'm very high innovator on that. And that is that problem solver. Everything is a problem that can be solved. There's a way to get through that. Whether I do it myself, or I bring other people on, or I outsource it to somebody else, I bring a mentor. Somehow, if I don't know what I'm doing, I have resources or assets that I can tap into. Okay. And that is an owner mentality mindset, an owner mentality versus an employee type of mentality where that's not on my job description and I don't know what I'm doing. And maybe this job isn't for me. Okay. So I'm curious. I'm going to go back to the comments now. Fake it till you make it. Yes, Robin. Although there's a typo there. So maybe that's another language. I don't know.
There are a few people. Mark said, as an employee, you're told what to do. The owner has to solve the problem.
Yep.
It's true. Lori said, I over-research solutions. I talk with people, brainstorm. So research is good. My response to her was, I over-research sometimes. So I spend way too much time researching and learning and thinking about it rather than doing. And only doing is going to turn our skills or assets into income. So we have to balance the two. So there's some good things here.
Mm-hmm. So actually, I want to expand just a little bit in talking about the CVI, because just these quick 4 things I think are, you brought up the needing that information, needing that research. So there's an innovator, and we all have all 4 of these, but we need all 4 of these in our life. So for me, I'm actually really low on that research, surprise, on the research side, which is they call a banker. And so I need people like Delia, and my husband's very high in banker. I need those people in my life because I'm very high in the innovator, which is problem solver, and doer, which is you just go. And I don't really see failure as an option. Yeah, something might not work out, but I don't translate that as failure. To me, it's like pivot. We're just going to pivot. We learned something and let's keep going. The fastest way to from point A to point B is a zigzag. It doesn't really matter as long as we get there. We're learning along the way. The joy's in the journey. Let's keep going. So there is a benefit to that, but you can also, I'm sure, hear that there's some things that maybe won't be quite as efficient. So we do need those bankers, the research piece. There's a balance. And then the third, so there's an innovator, the doer, the bankers, and then the merchant. The merchant is those people who are very concerned about the relationships and people. And we really need that piece as well. And that actually helps answer these questions. How do you act when you don't know what you're doing? Well, you try to solve the problem as an innovator. You research to find an answer to the problem. That's a banker. You talk to other people in your community, those assets, that's the merchant side. And then the did I say innovator? What was the other one? Banker, innovator, doer. I don't remember which one I missed, but basically you guys get the idea. You need all of that, but all of those are put together, and knowing what to pull from and when to pull back is all part of that owner mentality versus it's almost like I don't want to say victim, but that's almost what you just give up otherwise. But you guys are entrepreneurs. You guys are here because you want to build something. And so that does require being intentional to change the way that you're thinking and catching yourself. Wait a minute, I don't have to do this. I loved the income goal thing because anything that I'm doing that's under, if I want to make 125,000, I think was the number, anything I do that's under $125 an hour that I could outsource to somebody isn't worth my time. It's not worth my time. And that frees me up to be able to do the things that are going to pay me more. And that thinking differently is so important. And there might be a transition phase, which that's kind of what we're talking through today. What are some other comments? I saw some come in. Find your equal opposite.
Yeah, that's very good. And we'll actually pull up the What's Holding You Back worksheet and talk a little bit through it. The important takeaway or insight in this conversation is to identify how we're thinking about making money. And we do have to start changing our thinking about making money. So that's why we're talking about it. But now let's go into the specifics, right? Yesterday, we talked about brainstorming things things you have done, jobs you've had, solutions you've discovered for yourself that you might be able to leverage and turn them into income. So we'll hold that, and we'll go back to it probably tomorrow as we're talking about what to do with it. But now let's talk about some more mindset things. What's holding you back? And this is the worksheet that Jenny posted in the group. I'll share with you one personal story, or more as we're talking. But we'd love to hear in the comments the top thing or the top 2 or 3 things that are holding you back in your business. Then we'll also talk about the practical stuff. How do you transition from one stage to the other, right? Because if you're just starting out, you are not going to do only $125 an hour activities in your business. So we know there is a transitional period. We're aware. We've been there. We have done this process ourselves. So we are not being unrealistic when we are talking about these topics. We understand the stepping stone, the transitional periods that you have to go through. But specifically when it comes to things that are holding you back, which one is holding you back? Type your answer in the comments. I'd love to hear it. For me, I noticed often that I would always stop myself when we were close to making $1 million or more in revenue. And I could not understand why. After getting to that point a few times, I did not understand why I just kind of give up on the business or the income stream after a while. And I was not even asking that question. I was dealing with some personal things, and I had a mentor that I was paying to help me identify more about my own, personal issues and trying to grow as a person. Because I realize I can relate better with people if I know myself better. There's so many benefits to growing in our self-awareness. Now, as a Christian, I actually believe self-awareness is a gift from God. Like if we were created by a supreme being that knows us, knows every detail about us, then for us to be able to get that type of knowledge, it seems a gift in my worldview. So that's also a reason why I'm doing it, because the more I understand myself, the more I understand my relationship to the world, to other people, to God, right? So there's a spiritual aspect to it too for me. But in business, if you don't know yourself, if you don't know what's holding you back, you're going to struggle because it's going to keep you from progressing. So going to my story, I was working on my own, right? Trying to understand myself, grow in my ability to relate to other people. And I realized that I'm often afraid of having a large business because I was afraid of having employees. I did not want people to rely on me for their income. I was afraid of not being able to pay the payroll. And I was afraid of the stress and the responsibility. My parents had businesses growing up. They didn't really have employees, but they went through a lot of stress by having businesses in Romania. And I did not want to have that stress. So I equated employees equal stress, and who knows where I picked up that story, right? Because it's not always true. Yes, you do have more challenges if you have employees, but it doesn't have to always be a stressful business if you have employees, right? It was a false belief I kind of picked up from my environment, and it was holding me back. When I realized that, and I realized that was not true, it was not true that I have to have a stressful or that my business will be stressful if I have employees. It felt like something fell off of my shoulders. And I finally gave myself permission to grow beyond $1 million in revenue per year, which is hard to explain. It makes no sense, right? But that was holding me back. And it was one of the things that were holding me back. It was that fear of having someone else rely on me. Now, when it comes to you guys, maybe there's something else holding you back. And I love that people are typing their responses in here. Time, indecisiveness and disorganization, losing focus, and probably some fear in the mix. Fear of taking calculated risks, fear of failure, neglecting to build trusting relationships, health issues, having too many ideas, my top, disorganized, trying to find what to offer, having a real job I hate because it eats his time and income is up and down. These are so good. And I will try to see if we can address some of these right now, and then see if we need to come up with more content. We'll do that. But Jenny, did you want to jump in and share a story or address the?
Yeah, I'm happy to. One little comment that you made was you said that doesn't make sense, right? When you're talking with your story. And I think that what holds us back a lot of times doesn't make sense to us. And that's why it's so hard to nail it down, because it's like, well, of course it's not that, right? I'm not afraid. And what do I have to be afraid of? Like, it makes logical sense. And so I think that taking that off, it doesn't have to make sense, whatever it is that's holding you back. Just be honest with yourself. I love these comments as well, because when you're honest about it, then you can actually deal with the issue. If we're not being honest, we can't really do that. So I have a couple things that I know where I've really struggled is, this was a big eye opener for me, actually, is having, let's see if I can explain this. When I started my business, it was the people who were following me were selling on eBay. Amazon wasn't even really around. And most of them were younger moms, because that was who I had targeted, was people who were kind of in the same place that I was. And as I got going in my business more, I realized how much I enjoyed training and helping other people grow their business, because I was being successful with mine. And I actually enjoyed that a whole lot more. And then I wanted to be able to share not just how to grow an e-commerce business, but how you can turn whatever it is you enjoy into something more. And I realized that there are other things too that I was wanting to share with my people that were following me. And what I realized was I was trying to pivot them instead of and journey them through something. I'm trying to, this probably maybe isn't the best example, but I had goals for my customers, or my leads, the people on my email list, that weren't necessarily their goals. I wasn't listening to them, and that was really holding me back. Just kind of having my own agenda instead of really paying attention to serving my audience well. That's probably the best way to word that. And once that shifted, there were some big aha moments for me. And one of them was being really honest in the emails. Not that I wasn't honest before, but being more vulnerable, I suppose, in the emails that I was sending out, and having people respond actually quite rudely. And that was a gift. At first, I'm like, this is so not nice. This hurts my feelings. Like, I don't want to say things that are going to offend people or upset people. And I wasn't being rude in my comments, or in my emails, but people were not happy with some of the authenticity that I was sharing, and they were quite rude. And I remember sitting down with Jason Miles one time. He was in town, and we had coffee, and I was telling him how frustrated I was. And he said, "This is great. Your list is getting refined." And I didn't think of it that way. I was taking things too personal. So just a couple things there of just looking to serve well, which means it's not what I necessarily think is needed, but really listening to my audience more. And that was really holding me back. And then also just wanting, along those same lines, in a twisted different way, I wanted to please everybody. But when I started being real honest, I was finding my people even more. So the list was refining. I don't know if hopefully that makes some sense. But the other thing that I think has really been an issue for me, I love teams. I love working on a team. I love working with people and partnering. That brings me so much joy. It's so much more fun. I like having fun in what I do, but I tend to not be really great at team building, and that holds me back. And the reason it does is because my mindset is, I think I'm a burden to the people on my team, or that I'm trying to build. Like, it's this mindset of poor me, who would want to work with me? And that also impacts my pricing. I'm not worth charging what I have. So many people tell me all the time, you don't charge enough for your stuff, for your content. You should be charging more. And it's just this weird mind thing that holds you back. It goes back to that mindset. In fact, all of these things on this list, I think, go back to that mindset. And the irony there is, the people that I would want to build a team with or partner with are the people who really speak into my life and into that part. They're the ones who are saying, you need to charge more. You're worth more. The content you have, the experience you have is worth more than the $20 you're charging, or the $5 you're charging. You're putting all this time into it. And those people, that I think I might be a burden to are the ones who are actually speaking that truth into my life. And they're people that I want to build those working relationships with and have a team with. So there's always this wrestle. But when I take a step back, this is why these are so important. These exercises are so important. And I had the same kind of feeling I think that Delia had, where, this is a waste of time. But it really isn't. When we take the time to stop and look at a list like this and really take it seriously, we're able to address those things. Otherwise, they still, whether you think they are or not, they influence you and they sneak in. And a lot of the things that hold us back are based on lies. They're not the truth. And so being able to, again, actually kind of going back to writing down and naming those income goals, you're doing the same thing here. You're naming what's holding you back. And now you can name how to fight that and how to fix that or how to overcome that. And there's power, and it takes these things that seem so big, the fear of taking calculated risks or fear of failure, having too many ideas, not being consistent, all the things that you guys are sharing, being disorganized. It takes those things, and all of a sudden there's something that you can, they're not hurdles anymore. They're not barriers. They're not things that are overwhelmed, because you can put a plan in place to overcome them. And that's why I think this is really important. But I love too the questions that the answers you guys are putting in there. One of the things at the bottom of this, so this worksheet is in the group, and at the bottom, I think this is a powerful part of the exercise, is to, like I said, to write down what is the obstacle. You guys put them in the comments. What needs to change then, and how can you fix this? Another example that I see a lot of people struggling with is this confidence, fear of failure. And part of that is, let me scroll up a little bit. Let's see.
Well, you do that. I remember an example, a story that actually completely changed how I look at failure. I was watching a recording of a mastermind. This guy who was speaking in front of the mastermind, in front of a group of people who pay $30,000 a year to be part of this mastermind. So they were pretty successful people. And this guy who was in front had several 8-figure businesses. And he said, guess what? I have imposter syndrome all the time. And I was listening to him. I was like, what? What do you mean you have? And some of you might know him, Ryan Dice. He's been part of Digital Marketer. Yeah. He has built so many amazing businesses with his partners. And I was listening to this recording, and I could not believe my ears, right? He's saying, yeah, I have imposter syndrome all the time. And then I listened to a guy who has sold or has been part of about 1,000 transactions, buying, selling businesses, a brilliant guy. And he said, I'm scared all the time. I don't know if what I'm trying to do is going to work. Those two people, because they were mentors of mine, because I listened to what they had to say. And when I apply stuff that they told me to do, I actually made money. I trusted their expertise, right, in business. Mm-hmm. When I heard those two people say that they're afraid and that they have imposter syndrome, it kind of, again, took this like heaviness off of my shoulders, this burden. This is normal, because whenever we are trying to do something new, our brain is intended to protect us, right? That's what the brain really does. The way we respond to people or to challenges is our brain's way of protecting us from harm. Mm-hmm. So that's why we respond with fear, is because it's supposed to keep us from harm. Mm-hmm. And that's not a bad thing. And the fact that we're afraid should probably make us more cautious, so that we don't lose as much money, right? So that we don't just jump in the wrong thing, so that we ask questions. So your fear is not a bad thing. What we do with it is what matters. Right. And that's why this exercise is really important. But anyway, as you were talking, I remember that I'm like, I need to share this, because those two people and them sharing helped me so much. And guess what? I have imposter syndrome all the time. I feel like I'm not going to make it, or I'm not going to be able to make this work. And there's so many days when I'm afraid that this is not going to work. Mm-hmm. But people who are successful people are going to find solutions. They don't even need to have the solutions. They're just going to
Right.
look for the solutions. That's why we started with that question about those two questions, to identify which type of mindset guides your decisions. Are you a business? Are you thinking like an owner, like a CEO? Are you thinking as an employee? So you do not have to know everything. You do not have to have the answers. It's okay. You just have to take one step,
Yeah.
just what's the next best step.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think a lot of people do struggle with imposter syndrome. I think everybody probably does at some point. And I heard this talk on that one time. And most of the time, if you stop and you look, it's a lack of confidence in some way. But is it? You ask the question or answer the question: is it because I lack the skill, or is it because I'm afraid? Okay, what is it that's causing this imposter syndrome? And if it's usually it's because no, it's not usually, but if it's because we lack the skill, that's something that we can take care of. We can get the skill, right? And if it's something that I'm just afraid, that's something we can take care of also. We can do it afraid. Okay, so we don't have to let that hold us back. But it kind of stare that imposter syndrome in the face and go, you know what? It really doesn't matter. I deal with this a lot actually with people who have done KDP stuff, and we're going through and they're asking, okay, I've published one book. Can I really go to businesses and say, and offer to say you have a business creating low content books for small businesses? Yes, you can. You have a knowledge, even if you didn't have the knowledge of how to do it, you know that you can find people who do. And that's enough. As long as you know more than the people, or they're not in the business to do that. Just having the resources available to you and understanding I can find the solution to that problem empowers you to move forward into almost anything. As long as you have the confidence that you can I have resources to find a solution. I mean, Google's your friend, and you've got access to a lot of people. And in this group, you've got access to, there's a lot of great mentors in this community as well. But anyway, we all struggle with imposter syndrome, but break it down. Is this really a fear issue, or is it a skill issue? Because if we're not skilled, we're going to feel like we're faking it. And that fake it till you make it, I love that. But sometimes we do need to increase our skills, but that's doable. It's totally doable to accomplish that. So this is a great exercise. And what I like about the second part is really being able to say, I can fix this by, I need to add more skills, be specific. I need to, if it's the business partnering with KDP, I need to get one book under my belt so I can bring that book with me to show them what's possible. And then these are measurable things. I can fix this by, and to see if this solves the issue, I will. So those are measurable things, identifying what the obstacle is and deciding, what am I going to do about it? Time management. What are you going to do about that? There's lots of resources on time management. And a lot of times I think it really is finding what works for you. For me, if I'm in a very rigid schedule, I rebel against that and I get nothing done. But if I can have okay, you know what, my morning time or the first thing I do when I get up is going to be focused on this, rather than saying from this time to this time. I can handle the general idea. I can work, that gives me freedom. Okay. And I work better in that, where I feel like I have freedom in the moment to, kind of structure that how I want to. But not everybody's wired that way. Some people need, to have, I have a friend who she showed me her schedule, and it was like, 7:30 to 8. She does this, 8 to 8:30. She's doing this, 8:30 to 8:45. That would drive me bonkers. But that's what she needs to be able to be, to manage her time. So sometimes though, you have to do that through trial and error, and you got to figure out, give something some time, try it for a couple of weeks and see, this isn't working. And the reason it's not working isn't because I can't manage my time. It's because this tool isn't working best for me and I need to find a different tool. So.
Okay. Yeah. I was thinking, one person here was talking about confidence is a big one, a big reason that holds people back. Usually, right, belief leads to action.
Mhm.
And action leads to confidence. You can't manufacture confidence. You can only get confidence by doing. So we start right by talking about what's possible. That was the whole purpose of this challenge. We want to challenge you to think about what's possible for you. It's
Mhm.
possible to have or build a six-figure income stream. Will it happen overnight? Probably not, for sure not. Um, but if I have the belief that I can build a six-figure income stream, I will probably take action, right? As I take action, some things are going to work, some things are not going to work. But the action is going to build the confidence, and then
Mhm.
it's going to build the belief that this is really going to happen uh, if I just continue to take action. So then I take action, and that increases the belief. So think of it like an upward spiral. You can also go like on a downward spiral if you don't take action or you take action on the wrong things. But belief leads to action. Action builds confidence. One of the best ways to build confidence is to start taking action and give yourself the grace to make mistakes.
Mhm.
Almost every single person I know that is worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and I've asked them questions and I listened to their stories. I've been in rooms with some of these people, and almost each one of these people has gotten to a point where they lost everything, or they
Mhm.
were really close to losing everything, or they had very little left. Um, but because they were taking action, they build the skills, right? So when they lost everything, they knew they have the skills to build everything, and they realized, oh, I hit the bottom, like the bottom, and there's nothing like I cannot go lower than this, and I'm okay. I'm still alive. I still have my skills. I still have my
Right.
assets, and they started rebuilding.
Mhm.
That to me is fascinating because. Right, it emphasizes that having assets and skills is more important than
Mhm.
actually the income, because you can lose everything, you can just rebuild it. Well,
Right.
I mean, is it fun? Probably not. I don't want to get to that point. I mean, I did a couple of times. I was close to having nothing left, um, and it's freeing in a way too, because I
Mhm.
realize there's going to be a solution for me. Like, I'm not going to die of hunger. I know I have enough relatives. I know enough people that if I lose everything, I can have some food and a shelter over my head, and then I'll figure it out.
Mhm.
Um, so it's yeah, it's important to just remind ourselves by taking action, you are going to build the confidence. And then there's so many good things here. Let's take another one, disorganized. Sometimes people get held back by being
Mhm.
disorganized. I like to build systems and I do a lot of frameworks. And you might have seen some of my videos where I like to build all of these like diagrams and things like that. But I'm not the most organized when it comes to business. What I did, I partnered with someone who's very organized. I don't think I would have bought the business I bought by myself, or had I done it by myself, it would have been way harder.
Mhm.
But I have a partner that is more organized. So that's one idea of how to deal with not being organized. The other is just focus on fewer things. Because if you only focus on one thing, and that thing doesn't have tons of pieces, you'll probably make more money quicker, and
Yeah.
being disorganized won't impact you as much. Uh, so excuse me, there are ways to look at it and solve it, right, without actually changing necessarily. Because we want to leverage our strengths. So many times people look at what keeps them back and they don't look at what they have, the strengths they have, and just build on the strengths. Yes, the things that keep us back, we should address them, we should work on them, and all that. But sometimes it's way more important to acknowledge it, write it down, figure out a simple way to deal with it in the short term, and then focus on the strengths and just build the business on those strengths, and then hire people or partner with people who have the skills that you don't have. So there's so many different ways to look at it.
Mhm.
Having a real job I hate because it eats my time and income is up and down. How would you deal with having a job you hate? first of all, it's really hard, right? Because if you have a job you hate, it really drains you of energy and joy and makes it so much more difficult. To that, I would say start your day by focusing on your business. So maybe wake up 30 minutes earlier and just commit to doing 30 minutes per day, rather than, you don't have to do 2 hours, you don't have to do 4 hours, just 30 minutes each day, or maybe 4 days a week. Then you have maybe a Saturday where you can put 2 hours into the business on that day. Not a lot, even if it's 15 minutes, but give the first time of the day to your business, to building your goals. Most of us are impressed how far we can get if we are consistent in doing it. Now, if you struggle with consistency, accountability might be a way to deal with it.
Right.
I've been part of an accountability group. I'm not at the moment, but I had been part of an accountability group or support group, whatever you want to call it, for years. And we would have our quarterly goals. We used a 12-week book to define our goals every 90 days. We would have very specific SMART goals, right? A specific, actionable, time-based, all of that. We would have 3 to 5 goals. We would put them on the spreadsheet that we share with the team. Usually you want to have about 4 to 5 people, not more, because you don't want this to take too long. And every week we met for 30 minutes and we went through 3 things. What did you tell yourself that you're going to do this coming week? And then what did you do? And then what are you going to do next week? And if you didn't do it, why didn't you do it? And what happened is it kept us accountable. And after a while, if you keep saying, oh, I said I'm going to write that email, I said I'm going to buy X amount of products, or I said I'm going to do this. If you don't do it week after week and the other people on the call do it, you start to feel bad about it. I know, because that was my story. And you know what? You start doing things because I'm going to be on my accountability call tomorrow at 11. And I need to have something. I need to show that I've done something. And it keeps you a little bit more accountable. So that's one way to deal with consistency. Because if you break your 90-day goals into projects, and then those projects into weeks, right? Every week what you need to do, then you can keep each other accountable. There are simple solutions to most of our issues that keep us back from achieving the goals we want. Hopefully these ideas are helpful to you. Losing focus. Okay. Losing focus. Jenny, if you want to jump in, just jump in. But I'll take losing focus, and then I'll let you jump in if you want. Personally, I lose focus when I have too much going on, and I like to have too much. I like to work on a lot of different projects. So that's something I enjoy about being in business, having different projects. But I realize that if I say yes to too many things, I lose focus.
Yeah.
So that's why I started to look at everything I do and try to come up with a solution to incorporate everything together. So they're all working together, so that when I work on one project that seems different from the other one, actually it helps both projects. That's why I came up with the idea of turning one skill into 7 income streams. And that's my main goal this year. So I lose focus when I'm focused on too many things, when I'm trying to do too many things. So maybe just put some things on hold and just choose one thing, like in terms of business or income streams. Maybe just choose one income stream and build it rather than building 3 bridges at a time, right? If I don't know if I use this illustration in this group. Imagine you're on one side of the stream or a river, and to start making money, you have to make it to the other side. If you're building 3 to 5 bridges at the same time, it's going to take you a lot longer. So just focus on building one bridge, start to make money off of it. Then you take cash flow and you build a second, and then the third, and then the fourth. So building too many things at the same time has always made me lose focus.
Yeah.
Jen?
I can relate to that one right now. I'm just tired. And so I tend to, I can't work the same way I used to. and so I'm needing to modify that. One thing that came to mind in talking about fear again is this example, this guy that I was in a coaching group with, and he, it was e-commerce based, and he had all of this product. He kept buying products, but he wasn't shipping anything or listing it to sell. He wouldn't pull the trigger. No, actually, he wasn't even buy the product. He would do all this research, and he didn't understand why he couldn't move forward. And he would come back. They paid a lot of money to join this mastermind group, and he would come back every week, and we would say, so your task was to research and then buy a very small amount, and we're talking like $100, okay, or less, of product to send into tests. And he could never do that. And so we would ask him, did you buy product? And, you have this great list of researched products to pull from. And he would change the subject every time. And he'd be like, you know what? I went and I found this new wholesale company, and look at what I found. And he's like going off down there. He would totally avoid the question. And he kept getting caught up in the research. Well, what had happened is he had been burned, before, and had an office full of products. Now we're just saying, go buy 5, 7, 10 of these, spend less than $100. You're not going to have an office full, but it was paralyzing to him, this experience that he had, and he could not get past it. And he had paid, like I said, a lot of money to come to this group, and he wasn't doing the work. He just kept avoiding what was really holding him back. And finally, I said, you know what? Let's do this. Instead of going and buying products, what I want you to do is we're going to look at this. We're not going to go find something to sell. We're going to have this be a training exercise. Okay. So we changed the language a little bit. And I said, go and you need to buy 10 products and send them in to test. And that is your training exercise. We're not going to look at whether they sell. We're not going to worry about any of that. We just want to get them in so that you can get that process under your belt and get over this fear. Look at it as cheap training. You've paid a lot of money to join this group, and you won't spend $50 to $100 on this little bit of product. That fear, it was like he was pretending, we do this. We tend to talk ourselves around it so we don't have to handle our fear. We blame other things, and that's where community really, I think comes into play. We have to have people who are like that accountability group where we have to, we know if we show up. I'm surprised he kept showing up, and he wasn't like, I didn't buy any product and didn't show up. But I'm glad he did, because we were able to walk through that with him and reframe what was causing him fear. It doesn't matter if it's profitable or not. This is a training exercise. This is to teach you to the process. That's all we're going to do. We're not even going to, and that just changed the ball game for him. And that got him over that hump. The other thing somebody shared was too many ideas. I can so relate to that one. And sometimes it's easy to bounce from one thing to the next, especially if you, if you just have a bunch of ideas, but if you have that combined with, I need to generate some income quickly, it's easy to bounce from one idea to the next, because you're trying them all out to see which one's going to give me the income that I need next week. Okay. And a couple things about that. As entrepreneurs, I forget what the stats are on this. A while back, I don't remember who it was that was talking about it, but he said, this guy was speaking, and he said that entrepreneurs, there's like, I don't know, it's less than 20% of the population is actually entrepreneurs, and that we see patterns differently than other people. Naturally, we tend to see patterns, not just mostly in the market. That's why, we have this gut, or we see, gosh, something needs to be a problem, that something needs to be done about this. And we see these gaps in the market that most people don't see. And when you have those opportunity glasses on, or those gap seeing glasses on, you can see them everywhere. And it's hard to not want to act on all of them or 5 of them, or 3 of them, whatever it is. So you get all these ideas, and how do you know what to focus on and what not to? And one of the things, I think Jim Cockrum said this, there's a lot of good ideas, but you want to find the right idea. And to find the right idea, what works for me is first of all, if I feel like sometimes I think if I don't act on this idea, then I'm going to forget about it. And it's a really good idea. And so I need to be doing it now. So what helps me kind of take it out of my mind, but realize that I can go to it later, is to create a list of all my ideas. As soon as I have an idea, it goes on in my notebook, or, somewhere, however you keep a list, whatever works for you. And so I have this list of ideas. And when I have time, which I really don't ever, because I always have new ideas, but if I'm ever like wondering, wow, where should I invest my time? I know I can go to that list and I can look. And if those ideas are still viable 6 months later or a year later, then those are the right ideas. A lot of it kind of acts as a filter to not act on things right away, to let them sit for a little while and see, I can't tell you, sometimes I'll get into a brainstorm session with someone and we'll have this amazing idea. One of the best floppy ideas ever was Ryan and I were brainstorming something, and we came up with this, I don't even remember what it was, but this idea called Fundle Bundles. I don't even know what it was. It was dumb, but we ended up getting the domain name. We were like running, jumping. This is such a great idea. We never did anything with it. It was so dumb. We should have put that down on our list. It wouldn't have, 6 months later, it would have been like, yeah, that was dumb. We were just in the moment. You get in these moments and you get all excited about something and you realize, wait, if you don't take action on it and you just let it simmer a little bit, if it 6 months later, when you come back to that list, you'll know whether or not it was a right idea. It'll stand that test of time. So if you have too many ideas, organize them a little, just put them in a list, and you can go to them later if you need to, so they're not lost. Because that's really where my fear is I tend to think that I'm going to lose these great ideas, and that just acts as a really good filter.
Okay. Jenny, do you have to share my screen if I share screen? Okay.
There you go.
So really simple, kind of bringing together what we're talking about. When it comes to the business, if you think of it as the three things that make up the business, right? You as a business owner, the operations, and the blueprint you follow to actually run the business, and then the assets you have, that could be money, relationships, skill, knowledge. There's overlap between these two, but if you think like, right, a chair with three legs, if one is not really doing well, or it's missing, it's not going to run well, or it's not going to be useful. So that's why we're talking about mindset stuff. And then I mentioned already how you have beliefs impacting action impacts confidence, and so on. So you go through this cycle. By just taking action, you're going to increase your confidence. That's why it's important to start taking action. If you're overthinker like myself, then you have to build small experiments that don't cost you much, that are not going to impact you in a big way, and just start taking action, because every action you take is going to show you something. Even if this is not a good idea, it's going to show you something. So now there's so many times where I have ideas and I think, oh, this idea is going to make me $100,000 this year. And then I start doing it and I realize, well, there's too much work in it. Yeah, it can make me $100,000 in revenue, but it's not worth it. Right. So I can only discover that by doing. And as you do things, you get better and better at making those decisions and knowing what to focus on. And then ICE is here on the bottom. You see a framework from IT that talks about scoring ideas. So impact, I stands for impact, and this is financial impact. How much money will this probably make me? C stands for confidence, and E stands for ease of implementation. So how easy is it for me? If you've never sold online, right? Selling online, it's probably hard. But I am an Amazon seller. I've been selling on Amazon. If any idea comes up and it deals with selling on Amazon, and it's probably much easier for me. That would make it a high number. So then you just put a number. Of course, it's subjective. It's not perfect, but you give a number to each one of these ideas, and then it becomes a bit more scientific, more data-driven, right? Choosing between those ideas. And if you don't know how to answer these questions, how the impact, how confident you are, how easy would it be to implement, that's when you should ask someone who's done whatever you want to do. Uh, You don't have to like reinvent the wheel and do everything your own and figure everything on your own. You're just losing so much money. And as I'm talking, I remember that I did this exercise at one point where I put numbers on how much money I lost because I was not willing to listen to other people, and I was trying to learn everything on my own. And it's in the seven figures, guys. In being an entrepreneur over the last 10 years, sorry, more than 10 years, it probably cost me high seven figures, if not more. So don't make the mistake I make, right? Ask questions in this group, or in any other group. If you have any other people you trust, you don't have to figure things out on your own. Get help. But these are some frameworks just to help you kind of put all of the things we have been talking about together. And now I'm going to do one more thing, and that is talk about business stages. So this is going to potentially answer the question of how do I transition? I want to make money, but I don't have a lot of money to invest, and I don't have a lot of time. What can I do? So I want you to start thinking about your business in stages. If you're thinking about learning how to drive, right, you start by learning about a car. You probably had a driver's ed class, and if you've heard me talk about this illustration, it's really simple illustration, but I think powerful. We start by learning about driving or learning about the car. However, did any of you become amazing drivers by reading from a book about driving? Probably not, right? So that's part of the first stage, right? You learn about it in a book, or nowadays you watch videos, you ask people, you talk to people. But that's the first stage, right? Where you learn. And then it's uncomfortable. It's a pretty hard stage. Let's call it the hustle or the grind stage, right? That's the first one. It's uncomfortable. It's a little hard. But then you start practicing, right? First in the parking lot, and then you get on the road, and it becomes a little bit easier. So then that's right, stage 2. In business, I call that the traction stage, because you're starting to see some movement. Things don't feel as hard, but it's still not easy, right? And if we think about the driving analogy, you still have to think every time you turn your head over to look to check the blind spot. It's still an action that requires thinking. But then as you get better at it, you drive a bit more, right? I call this the optimized stage. It's so much easier. You don't have to think about it as much. You feel more comfortable. It starts to be a little bit fun. This is where it starts to be a bit more fun. And then only then it becomes like second nature when you get really good at it. If you think about the driving stage, but if you're in business, you start to scale and you start to hire people. You probably can start hiring people even here. The idea is you're in your own stage or your own season. So if you are in stage 1, you have different challenges from someone who is in stage 3. So you have to identify your stage and then identify what are my challenges in that stage. Because if you expect to do the things people in stage 3 are doing, meaning make 100K per year, but you haven't made any money, you have unrealistic expectations. You have to figure out, okay, how can I go from 0 to let's say 2,000, right? And then from 2,000 to 10,000, and then from 10,000 to 100,000. And then you can go right 100K and higher. And I'm just putting some random numbers on the stages. Each business is different, and different revenue goals work with each stage based on the business model. But it gives you an idea, right? Each stage has its own challenges. You should focus on different things. So start to think about that. What stage am I in? And recognize the challenges that come with each stage. The most important part for me is how uncomfortable this stage is. The first one, it kind of feels like this. If I were to draw something to explain the first stage, you start, right? It's a little bit exciting, like, oh, I see how I'm going to make money with, let's say, selling on Amazon, or with a content business. Like, they're telling me I can make $100,000 with my skill or my asset if I just figure out how to monetize it. And it's kind of fun, but then it becomes hard, uncomfortable.
Reality sets in.
Right? And then it's like, almost feels like going uphill. And this is where most people give up, because it does feel like going uphill for a little while, because you keep trying things and they don't work. So I want to encourage you, and by talking about these stages, just encourage you. Some stages are hard and it's not a lot of fun. But when you look forward to what's possible on the other side, right, of the grind and of the hustle, it makes it worth your effort. Now, I gave up on a lot of potential business ideas because I did not understand this stage, the hustle stage, and I did not make the money I wanted as quickly as I wanted, and then I gave up. But if you've ever read the Atomic Habit book, there's this book that talks about time and effort, and the author talks about making a 1% change or increase in whatever habit you're trying to improve. If you just do 1% per day, 1% every single day, at the end of a year, you're going to be 39% or more, or it was 60 some percent. I don't remember. But the graph looks something like this. The momentum compounds as you do it. Now, the first few, let's say 2-3 months, it almost always looks like this. It almost always looks like you're not really progressing, but you are, because you have you put those wheels in motion, and it's slow, but then there comes a point where you start to experience this compounded result. Now, I said all that. Hopefully this encourages you and motivates you, right? Because when you're looking at what's holding you back, if you're here, the fact that it's hard and it's uncomfortable might hold you back, and the fear of not seeing the results you want. But it's okay, because most of us are not going to see a lot of results here. We have to keep pushing through, and that's why having the right people around you are going to really help. So surround yourself with people who remind you, hey, it's okay to experience challenges. It's going to be so much easier. It's going to be so worth it when you're over here. It's going to be so worth it. I mean, this is where you get your income goal. If that's 125K, whatever that is, you can get there. I can get there. But sometimes we go through a valley. People call it the valley of despair. So I want to encourage you, don't forget what stage you're in, because some stages are challenges. The first couple of stages are so much harder than the other stages. Each stage has its challenges, but it's so much harder because you don't see the results you want. And usually that's okay.
Yeah. And sometimes if you stop, if you're an entrepreneur minded and you are seeing these gaps, you're going to go to another hustle, and you're going to have the same experience because you're not following something all the way through. A mentor of mine had mentioned, it's kind of to look at momentum like a snowball, right? It's, you want that snowball effect, but you have to stay focused on the same snowball. It has to be able to continue to roll for it to get bigger and bigger and bigger. If you stop it and you go make a new snowball, guess what? You got to start over. And that's usually what we end up doing. And then we feel like nothing's working for me. I'm not getting anywhere. And you're not, because you're not allowing those phases, I guess, those stages to get to completion. You're not able to watch them all the way through. And I'm sure all of us, I mean, I can think of things in my own business where I walked away too soon. I was done, and I should have done some things like bolting. I mean, I can think of things where I was in stage 3 and I walked away. I should have bolted them down and let them scale. And that I would have had a different story. But those are things we learn, and we apply them. But I love that encouragement, Delia. Thank you. And just, we want to encourage you guys. I know that there's a lot of different things in the world right now that might be discouraging you. I know some of you have shared stories with me and you're discouraged, and we're here to journey with you to help you reach those income goals that are very reachable. They're doable. There's just might be a few pieces that you need to encourage you, to help you stay focused, and tools that you need to get to reach those goals. We're here to help. And that's a lot of what this challenge is about.
Yeah, I know we went over time, but we talked before jumping on here about this issue of making quick cash versus building an income stream. So let's just address it. And there's always this question, right? When I start, if I don't have time, if I don't have money, those are the two things we have to we have to have one of those. And usually skill matters a little bit, but you can actually make quite a lot of money without any skill if you just know what to focus on. But time and money are the two assets that we usually have to invest. So if you don't have time, if you don't have money to hire people to work for you, what are you going to do? So if you're at stage one, right, you don't have a running business that's making money, or it's not very consistent, then you have to look in and ask yourself, is there a way for me to make quick cash in order to take that cash and pay other people to work for me so that I can build a system, a machine that's cranking income all the time? And sometimes it's hard to come up with ideas to make quick cash, but it could be, taking a month or two away from building the income stream to make that quick cash that you need by selling stuff you have around the house, by doing the things you might be able to do to get some quick cash as like the capital just to fund your income stream. And I know some of us, right, are in stages where we find ourselves like we really need money quickly, like we desperately need money. And what happens is when we think about it as like, I desperately need money, it actually hinders our ability to be creative. When I am afraid that if I don't make this money, something bad is going to happen, I don't have creativity. I have seen it in my own life. It's like, I don't know, it's like something in my brain stops thinking. And I do know a little bit of the physiology and the biology why that happens. Because again, the brain is
for survival,
right? You go into survival mode and you are not creative. In order to be creative, you have to have hope. And there are different ways you can, there are different things you can do to build that hope. Sometimes just, borrowing hope from someone else, just listening to someone else who's telling you what's possible helps. So if you need quick cash, sometimes we're being unrealistic, right? And maybe we actually have 3 months to build something, but we feel like, no, I need it this month. There were a couple of times when I thought, like, I really need $5,000, $10,000. That seems to be my number. Like this month, what am I going to do? And I had a very hard time coming up with a solution. But when I didn't need the money, or when I needed the money, but I wasn't very concerned about making it. Like, I just knew something's going to happen. It's going to work somehow. All of a sudden, I started seeing ways in which I could make money. And I did simple things like emailing a person who told me that they wanted to sell on Amazon. And I asked them, hey, are you still thinking about selling on Amazon? And this was a person I paid in the past for some training. So I knew they value time and they're willing to pay me. And he said, yeah, actually, how much do you want to charge for X amount of sessions? And they paid me money to help them learn about Amazon. So it does require us to get out of our comfort zone. I had conversations over the last 2 years prior to me needing that cash, right? I had conversations with people, and all I did was reach out to them and say, hey, are you still thinking about that? Very simple thing. So that's just one example. Or I actually looked around and sold books on eBay, and I made about, I think it was close to $1,500 just books. Now, again, I had some more valuable books because My mom and myself, we've been selling used books on Amazon for a while. So we always have a lot of boxes of used books in the garage. And books, the prices for used books go up and down. So sometimes they're not valued for much. So we just keep them for 6 months or 12 months, and then the price goes up. And that's part of the reason why I was able to make $1,500 on eBay with used books. But they're usually stuff we have in the house that we can sell on Facebook Marketplace, eBay, just to get some cash and take that cash and put it into the business. So think about it as stepping stones, right? Maybe I want to build a content-based business, but that's not the first step I take. Maybe I just need to make some extra cash to put us to save or to fund the business, whatever it might be. Think about it. What are the stepping stones? And if you want us to brainstorm some ideas, just post your question in the group, and then we'll ask you a question, or maybe we do a hot seat later on in the month with a couple of people, and we'll ask you questions to try to see how can you get some quick cash in your business. So we'll work on that. Again, think about the stage you're in, and then think about what stepping stones what steps can you take, right? And think of it as the stepping stones that are getting you to that next step where you're actually building your income stream. It's important to understand what your need is, but often when we say I desperately need this or that, that might shut down our creativity. So how we look at it is important. I know that I have to force myself to go on a walk and talk about all the good things I have in my own life, even if I'm not making the money I want, because being grateful kind of opens up that creativity for me.
Yes.
There are very simple, practical things I have learned I have to do if I want to stay in that creative mindset. Because I've had some seasons where it was really hard. Like there was a season where I had to take my own salary and pay employees because the business lost me money. It was no fun, and I can describe the stress I went through because of it. However, when I stopped freaking out about it, and I just gave myself some time to think, all of a sudden I started to see solutions, and I started to ask questions and reach out to people, and I got the money I needed. So I want to encourage you, think about the stage you're in, and then kind of build it slowly. It's okay to give yourself time, and you'll be amazed how much you can accomplish in 3 to 6 months. I said that maybe 4 times already in the last 2 days, but it's true. If we just take small steps, we will start to make a big progress, and that's going to get you to where you need to be, even financially speaking.
I think a key there is to really be intentional. So one of the things, we've talked about income goals and the bigger income goal, but if you're in this position where you need to generate some income quickly, and you're looking at that as a little step so that you can start doing content, as a business where you're developing around what or your skill set, set an income goal. I need to make this much now so that I have the freedom to focus on my next income goal, right? And so do something quick and easy so that you can generate that income, but go into it with the mindset of this isn't forever. I'm doing this until I get to this point, and then I'm going to be at a different stage, and my next step will be this. Okay. So use those. Look, if you're strapped for cash and you need to do a little bit of a hustle, I'm not talking about that so much in the same stage, in the context of the stages, but if you need to sell, a lot of you guys have, even if you don't have experience selling on Amazon, eBay, Facebook Marketplace, selling things around the house, getting your family involved, do a family project, whatever it is, to generate some quick cash, have a goal in mind. Make a big chart that everybody gets to, put stars on or something on when you're reaching that goal. Get excited about it. Celebrate those wins. And when you get to a certain point, whatever that goal is, then you can move on to the next stage. And so that can help. I think for me, the mindset sometimes when I get in that space is this: I feel like I'm going to be here forever. and I'm never going to be able to do what I really feel like is on my heart to do, or build a business around, I'm never going to have the time because I'm not going to ever have the money to get through that slower, the beginning part of that graph. Well, it might take a little bit of work during that time where you're building something else at the same time that's generating some more income to make up for it, or, you just need to plan for it. You just need to be planning for it and be intentional. But I love the hot seat idea. I think that's a great idea too. If anybody, maybe we can do that and get somebody actually on a call and brainstorm, ask some real specific questions, and encourage you guys. We want to encourage and equip you and empower you to be able to grow, to build a business that is growing and thriving in a short time. But I do think it comes back down to being intentional. That's a big part of not just floating around and not putting out fires all the time.
Yeah. Okay. So we covered, right. We reviewed the income goal,
Yes.
and then we tied it to the employer or owner mindset. Getting to that income goal will take a different way of thinking, and you have to stop thinking that you have to work more. Yes, in the hustle stage, it feels like you're working more and you might be working more, but we want to start changing our mindset, and we want to think about ways to leverage what we have,
Yes.
who we know, so that we can actually make a lot more money quicker. Then we talked about the stages, the stage we're in, using the driving analogy. Just learning about making money is not going to make you any money. You have to start taking action. And guess what? As you take action, that's going to build confidence, and then the confidence will make you take more action. And then you're gonna go like that snowball effect. You'll experience that. Now, I posted a question in the Facebook group. What was the easiest way you made $500 where you needed some quick cash? Share your ideas below. So let's see if we get a lot of people to share their ideas, maybe start brainstorming. And if that is the stage you're in, just let us know, and maybe we'll put more content together for you with that in mind. That's not the main purpose of this challenge. So we'll focus on it later on in the month or next month. However, if this is a need, whether we'll share our own stories or we will ask other people who were able to make some quick cash, we'll come up with some of those, some of that content. For now, we're talking about turning assets into income, right? Yesterday, you identify some of the skills, assets, things you know, and now we talked a lot about mindset today, but we're going to go to more specific things tomorrow. So share your feedback with us. I love reading all the posts and the comments today. Some of you were very interactive. That's awesome. That makes it easier for us to spend more time into building this and giving you more information that's helpful, that's actually relevant to you. So that's all I have for today. I mean, we went long. Jenny, anything else you want to add?
Nope, just looking forward to tomorrow. I do want to encourage you guys, if you haven't, really a place to start, and I think it's about being hopeful, and maybe that's what takes so much courage is, and I think it takes courage to turn to hope and to recognize sometimes it's easier to stay in that fear. But if you haven't posted an income goal, I would just want to encourage you to do that, either in the comments here or as a separate post in the group, and just post what is your income goal, and don't be afraid about it. Be brave about it. And I just think that was a very powerful exercise. And it gives us any questions and all of that, post them in the group too, because we certainly want to serve you guys, and we could talk about a lot of things, but we'll have a fun time, but it won't be any value to you if we're not really serving you guys. So we'll see you tomorrow in the evening. I'll post the time around the same time, probably again. And let's talk about that. We'll post in the morning, but we're in the group, guys. If you need anything, of course, tag us, and we'll see you tomorrow. Thanks, Delia.
Bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye.